Well, welcome back to another episode of the Cruise Conversations podcast. I'm Michael.
And I'm Frank.
And today's episode is episode number 77, and we're talking about cruising during the holiday seasons. Let's jump into it. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Cruise Conversations podcast. Super excited to talk cruising with you today, Frank. Cruising during the holiday season. I don't think either one of us personally yet have kind of sailed during Halloween or Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, but it's a great time to sail, and I can't wait to kind of just talk over some of the pros and cons today.
Yeah, I know, Michael. It's there's a lot of really key things to think about as you're planning a cruise during the holiday season. Obviously, it's an exciting time to travel, so we're going to kind of go through, like you said, pros and cons, what makes it great to travel this time of year, what also makes it kind of difficult. But before that, and also we're going to make a big announcement too. So we have actually kind of a cool announcement for next year. So we're going to get through the cruise news, and then we'll hit that announcement and then go through kind of those pros and cons. But Michael, we got some exciting things in the news, especially if you're a celebrity lover, right?
Yeah, that's right, Frank. Celebrity is actually now sailing out of Port Canaveral. They just moved the Celebrity Equinox here. It just finished a transatlantic coming over from Europe, and it's going to be sailing some 7-night cruises here. So one neat thing, they're cruises that start on Saturdays, which is typically a little harder to find at times. I know when my family sailed Celebration a couple of years ago, that's one thing we actually liked, that it started and got back on a Saturday. Like I said, a little harder to find. I know I read in March it's going to start hitting Coco Cay in the future. And then they also plan to bring larger celebrity ships to Port Canaveral too here in the future. So, it's great, especially if you're one that drives down from where we're at in North Carolina or anywhere else in the country. Obviously, cruising out of Port Canaveral's much closer drive than driving down to Fort Lauderdale or Tampa or Miami or any of the other cruise ports in Florida.
Yeah, it's just another option, right? Like when you're looking at airfare, it's nice when you can say, hey, what are the flights to get to the Miami area? Because, the two big ports out of Florida, two areas is like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and I think celebrities, like you said, mostly in Fort Lauderdale. And then Port Canaveral is another, big port. But it's cool that now, like you said, you've got the option of driving down there. And especially for us, and I know my parents that live in South Carolina, it's a quick, 4-hour drive. Maybe for some, they're like, that's not really quick, dude. But for them, it's like, 4 hours, we'll drive it instead of flying. And just another option rather than having to book a flight, which is really, really nice. The next one is another kind of deployment update. So we've got Voyager of the Seas now sailing from Port Canaveral. This is a 4th Royal ship that they're adding to Port Canaveral at this time. And, they're going to be offering some 4 to 5 night cruises. I had a free casino offer for next year, Michael, that I was trying to get you on, but just feel like I've got too many cruises at this point on the docket, so gonna have to pass on that one. But it was for Voyager, and this is one of the ships that I really want to try now that it is out of Port Canaveral, because it's a new class for me. I've never been on the Voyager class, and I've heard really, really good things about Mariner, Navigator, and Adventure. So I'd really love to get on this class. But yeah, really, really cool update again for those that live in the Port Canaveral area or just wanting more options out of Port Canaveral. So those are kind of two big deployment updates.
Now, the next update we got, this news is a little bit older. It came out a couple weeks ago, but, each time after we recorded an episode, the past couple ones, I was like, shoot, I forgot to bring this one up to talk about. Carnival Cruise Line banning Bluetooth speakers from their ships. So this isn't them banning them just from the pool deck areas. This is them, you're not allowed to bring a Bluetooth speaker onto the cruise ship. And if they find it in security, they're confiscate it and you get it back at the end of your sailing. So, obviously, I think this is an issue among various cruise lines, but you have the people who just want to blast their music at the pool decks in public spaces and all that. And while, you probably have all other, whether it's a bands playing up on the pool deck or the steel drums or just the music, the cruise lines are playing themselves. And I think it's led to complaints. And obviously this is Carnival's way of, trying to fix the issue of just saying no Bluetooth speakers. The side of it that I kind of think stinks is, personally, I like to have a Bluetooth speaker in my stateroom and just, as I'm getting ready, kind of just have some music going. I'm not blasting it, but like I said, just having some music versus just my phone, because, obviously it just sounds better on a speaker. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out over time, whether they keep this long term, if they cut it back at some point,
or if they'll actually remove them from luggage, or if it's one of those things where they say it's banned, and then, if you're in your room, they're not going to say anything. But if it's loud, they may come in and like say, hey, we need to confiscate that. But it's like, oh, in those public areas, they just, be like, hey, sorry, you have to give this to me. And they get like someone in security involved because it is like a banned item versus like someone just saying, hey, we don't like that you have this. It's not like an official policy, but now that it's like an official rule, they're going to like actually confiscate. Like this allows them to confiscate it. So I don't know if it'll be like, they'll actually be like scanning luggage like they would for like, guns or like, things like that. Like, I don't know. I can't really imagine them like necessarily going to that degree, but maybe it's like one of those things where now that it is a rule, they're going to be able to like enforce it and actually like police it a little bit more,
Yeah, like I said, it's interesting. Like I said, I understand the whole like public space, pool deck type thing. I wish I can kind of have it in my stateroom, but like, yeah, we'll see moving forward with that. Now, Frank, Royal also has a new item on their ban list. What can you tell us about them?
Yeah, it's actually funny when I saw that you had the Carnival one on there. I recently just remembered that like within the last week, Royal has actually banned routers. Okay. So a lot of other cruise lines, I believe Carnival, some other big ones out there have already done this as well. But there's like a little hack. I think Amazon would sell like these kind of pre-configured routers that would take like the cruise ship Wi-Fi, even though you had to like sign in and kind of like replicate like its own internet connection. I'm not like a whiz on networking, but it would be able to like create like another network that you can log into for free and kind of like skip and kind of cheat code a little bit the internet package. And a lot of people are using that to save money on their cruises. So this is now banned. Again, I don't know like how strict they're going to be on this. Like it could be still worth it to try, but to me, I don't want to risk these items because it slows down. Like I think one time I actually packed like one of those not chargers, but like outlet things. You plug it in and, one of the things that you plug in and charge all your devices. Okay. And I was like wondering, it was like 5:00 on the boarding day. I'm like, why is my bag not here? And then I had like finally called and they're like, oh, it's down with the security team. They'll bring it up, but had like one of those little tags on it that it was opened and searched and they took that item. So just something to think about. Like, well, you can always risk bringing anything on a cruise and the worst case is they're going to take it. But is it worth like the delay in like your baggage? And like, I mean, if you're only on a 3-night cruise, you don't get your bags till like later, that could be a big issue. So
did you get it back at the end of the cruise?
You can actually go get it back. They give you like a tag, and then when you get back to the port, they'll have like a spot for you to go to grab that item. So,
gotcha.
I didn't do it because it was like a $5 to $10 thing. I was like, it's not even worth it. I'm running to try to get to my flight, so I didn't even do it. But
gotcha.
And the last little piece of news this week is really, really exciting. It's around the Royal Beach Club at Paradise Island. For those that have just tuned in, we've been talking about this one for a while. Royal Caribbean is opening a private let's call it excursion for the day in Nassau, which will be right across from the cruise port area. It's right on the same side, I guess, as Atlantis, but basically like that same island. And the excursion will be a private excursion only for Royal Caribbean guests for the day. We don't have a price for how much this will cost, but we did get some new updates in terms of the design and layout this week. We know that they're going to have 2 beaches. They're going to have 3 pools. They said that all 3 pools will have a swim-up bar. One of them will have a DJ. One of them will be more focused for families and kind of connected to like the splash pad, Splashaway Bay area. And then one will kind of be towards the end of the island to kind of space out guests. There will be snack shacks on the island. They confirmed that in the drawings and conceptual diagrams and everything. And then they're really leaning into this like new restaurants, like basically flaunting like the Bahamian cuisine. So similar to what they have like announced about Perfect Day Mexico, that they're really trying to make it more cultured. They're kind of similar, like they're doing similar things here with the Royal Beach Club at Paradise Island, because they're trying to like lean into the culture. I think a lot of people give Coco Cay kind of like, and some of our friends too have said this, to me, and they're like, part of going on a cruise, part of traveling is to experience culture. And I think Royal Caribbean I think they've checked all the other boxes, right? They've got, a beautiful island. They've got the free food that's good. They've got, drink package that you can use. They got pools, beaches, water slides, all that. But like, there's that component of there's no locals that live here. It's very much like a Disney World type experience. And I think that they're trying to incorporate that local component, right? Like even if you had like some cuisine that was different or a show that was like, unique to, you had, something that like educated you like about the island or just like something like that, right? So I think that's what they're really trying to lean into, because that is a big piece of feedback, is I feel like I'm going to Disney World, or I'm not getting like, it's an island that I don't get to like a tour. Or you can't really do any of that here. So, and that's like what we know right now about Royal Caribbean's beach club at Paradise Island. I think we're just going to have to stay tuned on more information that comes out on this one. Like, there's questions I still have. I saw some really cool things on like these cruise critic blogs about how they're trying to get the internet over there. They're like, Michael, this is going back to the internet thing that we talked about, the routers. You're more of the IT wizard, but they were like trying to use like the ship internet, and they already do this at CocoCay. They plug into like a fiber there. So they're trying to use like this wireless technology to like kind of like send the network across to that island from the ships.
Interesting.
So it'll be really cool to see that. And then, yeah, the drink package, right? Is the drink package going to work? I've seen some stuff, but I don't think I've seen like an official confirmation. So if you're listening and you know that you saw like an article or something, send that our way. I've not seen quite yet that is like confirmed. I think it's assumed, but not yet like written down in a trusted article quite yet that the drink pack. I don't see why Royal Caribbean wouldn't include it, since it's included at all of their other private islands, but just something I haven't quite seen confirmed yet. So we'll stay tuned on this one. Hopefully we get some more answers as this kind of opens up next year, and I'm really, really excited about that one.
Hey, I'm about to say, that internet thing's just cool alone at CocoCay, that they just plug up to the ship. I had no clue that. I just figured they had their own setup there on the island itself. So it's cool to see how they actually build these islands and all the technology and things that go in it behind the scenes that you would never think about.
Yeah, and you think about like they have to charge. They swipe your card, right? So they're charging things back to the ship.
Yep.
It all is like part of the ship experience, like on the app. Like it looks like you're still on the ship. Like it's the same experience on the island as it is on the ship. So that's like, I guess, how they have to do it. So pretty interesting. But Michael, we said there was a special announcement. I'll go ahead and hit that while we're talking about Royal Caribbean. So we are going to be doing a group cruise. We'll put all the details out on social media this week. We're going to be doing a 4-night cruise on Symphony of the Seas, which is one of the big Oasis class cruises. And this kind of goes into the holiday theme because we are actually going to be going during Halloween. 4 nights. It is the 29th of October through, I guess, the 3rd is what it is. So that weekend, it goes like Wednesday to Sunday. Really, really excited. We got really special like group rates. So it's a good price. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a really good price. We'll try to do some events, we'll try to rent out some space, just depending on how many people are interested. We'll all do dinners together if you guys want to do dinners with us. And we'll kind of, do a quick episode, maybe rent out a space for that, and then just maybe do a group excursion. It's one stop in the Dominican Republic. I've never been to the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
So really looking forward to that. I saw some really cool like rainforest, excursions and things. So yeah, just looking forward to that. I think we looked at a lot of different cruises. We looked at Virgin, but at the end of the day, we have I want to say 40 rooms held at this point for this cruise. So I think it's going to be really, really good. So if you're interested in that, make sure you send us a text, 704-313-8556. You can send us an email at cruiseconversations@gmail.com, or you could just drop a message on YouTube or however you want to get in touch with us through Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that.
I think the crazy thing too, Frank, with this cruise is, you've been known to do your birthday cruises each year, and your birthday is the 1st of November.
I know.
You've never actually sailed on Halloween.
It's crazy. This is going to be fun to actually do a cruise where we could do Halloween parties. We can have a best costume competition. Everyone bring their Halloween costume, and it's going to be a great time. And so I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully some of you guys listening can get off work. I guess you'd have to get off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe, is kind of our plan. So we'll be back Sunday. So it's a quick cruise, but 4 nights on a beautiful ship. I love Symphony of the Seas. You've got Jamie's Italian. You've got great food all over the ship, restaurants. You've got some awesome shows too. You've got one of the coolest shows, which is Flight, with that big plane that they put in the auditorium. So just really, really cool. And again, we got some really special pricing on that. So with that, Michael, dude, it's the holiday season.
Holiday season?
There we go. It's the holiday season. So we wanted to talk about just what it's like to cruise during the holidays. This was a topic that we were talking with my wife last night, and she's like, "You guys
at a Christmas party."
Yeah, we're like, yeah, we probably should talk about what it's like to cruise during the holidays. We talk to a lot of clients. We book holiday cruises all the time. it's some families really love it, and some families, prefer to be at home. My wife's family has been one of those families that they just enjoy Christmas at home, and there's nothing wrong with that, or New Year's at home. Also, we're going to talk about price and everything. There's a lot of considerations when you are booking this time of year. So we're going to go through that. We're going to do kind of like a pros cons approach and kind of go through kind of what are the things that you should be considering when you're booking this time of year.
Frank, like we mentioned, there are many holidays this time of year, right? We're not just talking Christmas and New Year's. You also have Halloween cruises, Thanksgiving cruises. I mean, there's a ton going on this time of year. And like you said, I was even joking with my mom at Thanksgiving this year. It was like, shoot, maybe we just go on a cruise next year for Thanksgiving. This was this was after we were done eating dinner and there were all the dishes to clean and all that. I'm like, just imagine, you don't got to cook, you don't got to clean. I mean, and you can still have a nice Thanksgiving dinner. And that'll be one of the points we get to when we, as one of our pros. So the first pro we have on our list is making memories, right? We were talking earlier, and a lot of, Christmases, Thanksgivings, Frank, can start to blend together.
Yeah.
And, having, spending one of these holidays on these cruises can, like we said, make memories. It'll be a Christmas or Thanksgiving that you'll always remember. And, some people may just replace gifts as a whole, right? And do the trip or do cruise-related gifts. 1 year, my family, we actually cruised in January. It was kind of like a family Christmas gift. We didn't really do gifts that year, but we knew, hey, the cruise was going to be coming up in January, and that was what we did. So, I mean, you got to think, especially Christmas, right? It's one of the biggest holidays of the year. You think all the different parades and all the theme parks do stuff and towns do tree lighting ceremonies and all that. So overall, like we said, it could be a great way, no matter what age you are, right? Whether you're someone with kids or teenagers or you're just married with your spouse, going and celebrating and making memories on the cruise.
Dude, it's a great point because we've obviously been through a lot of Christmas holidays. Not all of them look the same, but at the end of the day, the one I remember the most is the one where my family took a trip down to Florida. And again, it wasn't a cruise, but it was one that we, spent the Christmas holiday, instead of doing like the normal thing around the tree, we were down in the Keys and had a great time at a resort. And it's like all the other Christmases, I don't really remember. Like I remember generally like what we did each Christmas, but it's not like I remember a gift or I remember like, oh, they got me this, computer or Apple Watch. Like I don't remember those Christmases like in those gifts as much, but I do remember like that 1 year that we didn't do Christmas at home and we had a really, really good time at the beach. So I think this is like a really good point. So, and that's probably why people do book these cruises, is because they do want to make the memories and kind of have a standout kind of trip. So the second pro that we have of cruising during the holiday season is just experiencing all the beautiful decorations on board, right? You cruise during the summer, you cruise any other time of year. It's always the same, right? It's beautiful. You love the ship. It's shiny, but there's something special about being, on a holiday sailing where they've got Christmas trees and lights everywhere. And just, it's really cool. And especially during like Thanksgiving, they've got pumpkins out and you see Halloween decorations. Like it's just super, super cool to kind of take an experience. Like if you've been on a ship already, yeah, you may have been on Symphony before, but you've never been on Symphony during Halloween, or you may have been on Wonder before, but you've never seen it during Christmas with all the lights, in Central Park or anything like that. So it is like kind of a completely different experience. Like my mom is actually getting on Wonder today, and she called me and she's like, one of the things I'm really looking forward to, like, she's like, I've been on the ship a couple times now, but like I've never seen Christmas trees on a cruise ship. Like she's like, I usually just avoid this time of year because it's like a lot of families. It's, we're going to talk about all the pros and cons, but like, she's like, usually I just avoid this time of year because it's so close to Christmas. And, she's really looking forward to just experiencing it with all these beautiful decorations, which I think is pretty cool.
All right, Frank. So one of the first cons on the list, we're going to kind of bounce back and forth between some of the pros and cons we have, is price, right? I mean, these cruises are going to be some of the most expensive times to cruise throughout the year. Because like we said, they're big holidays. Everybody's going to have time off. So you're going to want to make sure, this is one great reason to use a travel agent, right? We actually, a week or so ago, pulled a lot of rooms for Star and Icon in 2026 around all these holidays, right? Christmas, New Year's, 4th of July, because all of these are high demand. Because, you got to think they are the most traveled times of the year.
Yeah, and like to your point, like the prices are only going to go up from now on. So like make sure you try to use especially on Royal, try to use a travel agent so you get those group rates, because at the end of the day, our prices aren't going to change. But as more cruises get booked, and this is why you use group rates, those rates are going to go higher and higher and higher on the website while your travel agent has access to rooms that have been held for months. So make sure that if you are booking with a travel agent, but expect to pay a higher price during this time because it is the holidays and these cruises are in super high demand, which goes to our pro of you have PTO this time of year, right? Like you can take a full trip for most of us that, work, maybe you're in corporate America, maybe you're a teacher. Like this is probably when, your kids are out of school. Like all of the stars align in terms of taking a longer trip with the least amount of repercussions, right? Like you can take your kids out of school for a week, but they're going to have to catch up and get back into it in the fall or spring semester, whenever, they're going to have to catch up whenever you take it during the year. But this is a great time to take a cruise. And especially for us at work, usually I think most companies at this point are pretty much off between like Christmas Eve and New Year's, like New Year's Day. And this year's a bit weird with New Year's kind of being on a Wednesday. So that's kind of stretching out a little bit, which is nice. So that's like almost a week and a half, 2 weeks that you're getting, off for the most part for a lot of us. And that kind of makes it nice. So while it's a higher price, you probably, are a little bit flexible with work and maybe worth it to you to not miss work, during this year. So that's why, again, going to your point, Michael, the price is higher because a lot of people can take the extra time this time of year.
Yeah, I know me personally, Frank, I have, I think, 2 days left that I can't roll over to next year, minus Christmas and New Year's and all that. And I'm here kind of looking, what cheap flights are out there? Do I go up to New York for a day or two? Do I just go drive up to Boone? So, yeah, PTO, use it, don't lose it at the end of the day. Now, the next pro we have on our list is special food menus, right? And a lot of this is found in the main dining room for these holidays, whether Thanksgiving, Christmas. John Heald just posted Carnival's Christmas menu that they're doing for Christmas. And while some of the menu, is some of like the stuff they have all the time, they have like a special Christmas section, which I think like with a brie type appetizer, turkey or ham for your entree with all different, festive sides. I forget what the dessert was for Christmas, but it's probably a couple different options there. And, I think this is common among all the cruise lines these days, changing the menu and making sure there's some special options that you can have, like I said, on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and some other holidays throughout the year.
Yeah, and they're always going to have like the basic stuff that you can get on any cruise, right? They're just adding on to the menu. Or if you don't like the menu, you can always find something else. You can go to the steakhouse, you can go to the buffet. It is worth calling out that, like, I think on Royal and some of the other lines, they do have like an upcharge for like on Valentine's Day or on Christmas. If you want to go to like the steakhouse that day, sometimes they raise the price and it's like the exact same menu. Okay. So that's just a call out, like look into it. You can see in the fine print of the dining package or anything that like this doesn't include holiday dinners or whatever in specialty. So just keep an eye on that. Like Azumi doesn't have that. Like other restaurants don't have that. But it is something just to make sure, even if you're not cruising on Royal and you're going on another line, that they're not going to upcharge you just because it's Christmas. Because you'd be like, I'll just eat in the main dining room. Like they're already going to do tenderloin and some really, unique turkey and, potatoes and some of the fun things that you want to eat on that holiday anyway. So just take a look at that. That's the main, just a thing to call out there. In terms of the cons, right? So one of the things that we struggle with when we book during the holidays is just availability, right? So you've got a high demand, we talked about price earlier, but if you're traveling with a large family, say you've got 10 people in your group, it is really, really hard because of just the demand and the fact that these cruises are usually booked a year plus in advance. Again, to Michael's point, some people are booking Christmas for the last Christmas. They're saying, hey, for Christmas, we're getting you a cruise for next Christmas. So just think about that when you're booking for the holidays, that you may have to be a little bit flexible on your room locations and things like that when you are booking with a group. While, if you go on like September 19th, for example, like you're going to have maybe it's going to be easier to get rooms together potentially than if you're going on Christmas. It's just going to be harder to maybe get rooms all together unless you're booking really, really far in advance. So just keep that in mind when you're booking for the holidays, that you may have to be a little bit more flexible just on room locations and things like that, because again, these are just really high in demand bookings.
All right, now moving back over to a pro, Frank. Talking about traveling in big groups, maybe you live up north and you're trying to escape the cold, right? This time of year, snow, you're not getting that down in the Caribbean. No. So, a great way to, like we said, go spend some time in the sunshine, the warmth at the beach. I think a lot of people don't even really think of the beach, like, and all that, like, especially like January, right? Like post-Christmas. Because, anywhere else it's cold, but I think that's why my family, actually started doing some January cruises years ago because it was like, it's the middle of winter. Let's go down. I mean, it's not going to be blazing hot down there in the Caribbean, but it's definitely warmer than anywhere else in the state. So, yeah, like I said, a great way to go, like I said, especially if you're up north in that snow, man.
Oh, definitely want to enjoy that.
Some of the football games lately on TV, the NFL games where it's been pouring and dumping snow, man.
Makes you want to be like in the Caribbean watching the game from Playmakers, right?
Yeah.
Going off at that point with the weather, I do want to call out as a con that the Caribbean seas, if you are going in the Caribbean for a cruise during the holidays, I think December and January tend to be a little bit more unpredictable when it comes to the seas. I would say some of the best time to cruise for seas, if you're like, I'm a seasick person, I'm going to the Caribbean, I would really look at like April and May are kind of my sweet spot, like really sweet spot. The summer is good, but it's just really, really hot. And then you get into hurricane season later in the summer into the early fall. So if you're looking at like, hey, it's my first time cruising January, I would just be like, hey, just so the winds are a little bit more unpredictable. The seas can be a little bit more unpredictable. Not a huge point because, like, again, it could be perfect. I'm not a meteorologist. I'm not like looking at the trends over the last 5 years. I'm just saying that, like, if people, like, I've heard of nor'easters and just things happening. Just be careful this time of year if you're booking a cruise. Just keep an eye on the weather and, make sure you come prepared with Bonine or Dramamine or I'm not a big fan of like the patches behind the ear, but just have some sort of remedy just in case you are prone to that. It's always good to be prepared and not be put in that situation where you're getting potentially sick on a cruise. So just something to call out again. It's not like a major con, just something that could impact your sailing.
All right, so the next pro we have on our list is, if you're the one that's hosting the family each year, no hosting required, right? Like we said, all the food's going to be cooked for you. All the cleaning's going to be done for you. I mean, it's a great alternative if you're the one that's constantly hosting people each year. That's why I said I joked with my mom the other week during Thanksgiving. I was like, hey, maybe next year or some future year we just go on a cruise for Thanksgiving because, like you said, it takes out all of the stress of planning and figuring out who's cooking what and getting all the cooking done and all that. And you just get to relax at the end of the day, right? Just similar to any other cruise when it comes to just relaxing and having all that taken care of for you. But, why stress out during the holiday season when you don't have to?
Yeah, that's a great point, Michael. And like that whole thing about like whose family, like I'm starting to get into that phase of life where it's like, whose family are we going to be for Christmas? Like, oh, we're going to have to go to mom and dad's. We got to go to your parents. Like after that, like a lot of driving involved. Like there's a lot of, I don't know, it's not politics, but it's like the stress of like making both parties like happy and satisfying everyone. Like, oh no, like we're just going to go on a cruise ship. And like, if you guys want to see us, come on the cruise. Like that's a pretty easy way to solve it. And like, you just be like, hey, we're going to be on the cruise. And if you guys want to hang out with us for Christmas, you guys should all come. And like the more the merrier. I don't care if that crazy aunt comes because I'll just avoid her on the ship. But yeah, no, that's a really good point as well. Kind of going off of that, like in the opposite of relaxation on the cruise, there's a lot of really cool parties and events, right? So you've got themed parties, whether it's like a New Year's, like I've heard like New Year's, they've got, every single venue has their own party. You're dressed up, you're wearing all your shiny kind of New Year's, bright colors and everything. And then you've got, Christmas, you've got Santa. They do like a story time with Santa. You can like meet him and everything. And it's just like a really cool, and they got like special trivia. So if you are going during a holiday, they may do like a Thanksgiving trivia or Halloween. Like they'll try to do fun things around that. Obviously, if you're going during Halloween, like for our cruise next year, they're going to do trick-or-treating on board. They'll do costume parties, all of that. So really, really cool if you are one of those people that loves activities, but you're like, I'm kind of like over all of like the basic activities that you do on any other cruise. This is like another way to just like mix up your cruise lineup to kind of get some new things going and just kind of experience some different things on board.
Frank, I'm excited to trick-or-treat with you next year.
Hey, I haven't trick-or-treated in some time, so.
Yeah, I mean, Frank, between like the theme parties, the special food menus, the decorations, I mean, these are some great reasons of why, like, I'd love to, especially a Christmas cruise someday. Oh. And I mean, I can just imagine, like, I'm jealous of your mom right now on Wonder and just seeing all the Christmas trees up and the decorations and all that. I mean, sounds amazing. And now kind of the last con we have on the list that kind of goes with this is, like we said, the kids are going to be out of school. There's going to be more families on board, right? And for some, they may not be as interested in that. I mean, one great thing to do, look at Virgin Voyages, right? Like we've talked in the past, it's adults only. So maybe sailing them during Halloween or Christmas or Thanksgiving could be another option for you. And so, I mean, with a lot of extra kids and families on board, it could lead to longer wait times for things like water slides and some of the other popular family activities on the ship. So just something to be aware of, like I said, when you're booking these, because like we said, most all these holidays, all the kids are out and there's going to be more kids and families on board.
No, that kind of wraps up our list, Michael. I mean, those are some really good pros and cons. I think we had 11 total, mostly pros. Yeah. We tried to stay positive on the experience. I think overall, if you can afford it, if you're, flexible on your ship your category of your room, you're okay with maybe some weird weather in the Caribbean and families being on board. Like we're saying, it's a really good option to cruise during the holidays. Again, price probably being like the hardest thing for most people, just because it is more expensive. But yeah, this is something like, to your point, I would just love to do. I have to convince my family to do a Thanksgiving or a Christmas cruise because, man, I'm excited because I'm already seeing on Instagram and on Facebook like all the decorations, and I'm sure Mom will be sending me photos probably in the next few minutes of her getting on board and all the trees and everything. So that's going to be really cool. But Michael, one thing that I want to mention, we have not done a question segment in some time. So if you are listening, whether you have a question or you've just been listening to this podcast for a while now, make sure you reach out to us. Let us know you're listening. Tell us what you like. Tell us some feedback. This is how we get some new topics for the new year, just from people reaching out and saying, hey, I really like what you did here. Why don't you try to do something like this? So make sure that you let us know that you're listening. Let us know that you're enjoying this podcast about cruising, and maybe give us some ideas for the next year, because we got our plan probably all the way through end of Jan, but definitely looking forward into the new year at different ideas and bringing on some new guests as well. So I think that's going to wrap up this week's episode of the Cruise Conversations podcast. Make sure you're following along on YouTube as well at Cruise Conversations podcast. We got some vlogs coming out. Really going to be focused on that this week. Getting those icon vlogs out. It just takes time. Want to make
MSC eventually.
Yeah, we got a lot of vlogs, a lot of content coming. So make sure you're following along on social media and on YouTube. And with that, we hope that you guys have a terrific week, and we will see you back here next Wednesday.